Hello, good afternoon. Good to see you all here. Thank you so much. So we're now going to talk about agentic AI, the topic of the week, most probably. And I've got three brilliant sort of cultural brand experts, investors in this space to talk with me. And we're going to get deep into the weeds here and give practical examples. So first of all, a bit of, I guess, a definition setting before I introduce my brilliant panel. Agentic AI is obviously a newer version of AI, which is where AI can start to make decisions and start to do things and go off-piste and hopefully do the right things with very minimal human interaction. So you want to book a holiday, it will do that for you and take all those steps. If anyone saw Demis Hassabis yesterday, he was saying that we're sort of 10 to 15 years away still, but we are, of course, beginning to see AI agents everywhere. Mark Zuckerberg, our friend Mark, said that there will be more AI agents than people in the world. So I don't know if that leaves you terrified or optimistic. In fact, a show of hands, who's terrified? Okay.
Wow. Optimistic crew.
The rest of you are optimistic about agentic AI? That's fabulous. Okay, so just before I introduce them, I'm going to give you some sort of paradoxes and contradictions that kind of set this panel up. So 85% of enterprises will use AI agents by 2025. So I'm guessing that 85% don't know how to use it yet, though. And almost half of people believe that AI can be empathic. But can we really have empathy through algorithms? I don't know what, we'll get to that. 72% expect AI to reflect brand values, but whose values are these? The coders or the customers? This is what we'll get to. So first of all, I'm going to introduce you all, and then I'd love you all at the end to give me one real-world AI prediction. So first of all, we have Marell Evans. He is the founder of Exceptional Capital, which is an investment firm investing a lot in this space. We have James Kirkham, who is the founder of Iconic. He's a cultural critic and broadcaster. And we have Erika Wykes-Sneyd, who is the global VP and GM at Adidas. So Erika, should we start with you? What's your big real-world AI prediction to kick us off?
Yeah, okay. So one hot take I've been thinking about is in a world where we're using a lot of AI right now to, let's say, replace human work, and it's feeling and sounding very human, the outputs, whether you're building podcasts or you're making scripts or you're writing briefs or you're even doing, synthetic qualitative testing. The thing that I'm finding is more than ever, I think people are wanting the humanity. And so no matter what, we're realizing that what makes us messy and what makes us human is what we need to get even closer to right now as we're living in this age of exponential digital acceleration.
James, I'm going to work this way.
I'm going to tie in with your optimism. I love the fact that only about 3 people look worried and everyone else you're all bang up for it, so I'm going to tie in with that. I think we're going to see an explosion of creativity born by the fact that everything is a mush and is grey and vanilla and samey, and I'll get onto that. So to stand out, to cut through, we will need to be at our creative best. So that's going to be a good thing.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I say, this tectonic shift is happening right now with so many AI builders. I think if you don't have aesthetics and tastes right now, without being able to decide which company is or which product is the most sophisticated, you won't be able to build an enduring business.
Okay. So some quite positive hot takes there. We're now going to get into more of the detail, how agentic AI is going to sort of affect our lives a bit. Many people, and I'm sure many of you in this room actually, believe that we're in a bit of a creativity crisis. You said, James, a sort of sea of sameness, and AI is creating kind of average versions of everything pretty much. So how do we continue, or how do we create iconic work, iconic output, when AI really is catering to that very dull, vanilla, inoffensive middle?
Yeah, shall I start?
Yeah, you go for it.
Well, I have been banging on about that. Well, I think even before that, we all basically use ChatGPT every single day of our lives in the last 12 months. Before that, cast your mind back basically about 4 years, We're already completely enslaved by our algorithmic lives. In our quest for convenience, because we're so time poor, then it's Amazon recommends, because you once saw, because you like, my For You page. Oh my God, I need that little tiny time back, so I will just follow what everyone else did or said or bought or read. And it's leaving us into this kind of vanilla beige mess. A friend of mine, Tony, who's at Warner Music, said, everyone says they want new music, but they don't. They want a sort of female starlet who's a little bit like Dua Lipa, or they want a singer-songwriter who's a little bit like Ed Sheeran. And whether you're looking at TV shows, whether you're looking at music, whether you're looking at in the world events or more broadly, our quest for convenience is leaving everything looking the same, and it's a problem. So I think to start off with, even before we got the Zuckerberg good news of we're going to flood the internet with AI characters, we're going to send out more AI agents than individual humans, even before we get to that, we already had a problem. So we need to wrestle away from that issue, the fact that there has been this sea of sameness, the fact that everything is starting to look this culturally the same. Something needs to shift and change.
How do we do that? Maybe, Erika, you might have the answer.
I mean, I've been in big companies as an operator and as an executive, and worked across either business development at the very forefront of places like PayPal and Uber and Sony PlayStation, where now I'm in a business and a brand that trades on cultural capitalism. And I think the thing that I am wrestling with behind the scenes is probably, and this is my rough estimate, 70% of the work that's getting done inside the companies is just internal slideware, decks, robotic work that can be replaced anyway. And so the thing that I think is going to start happening is the way we work is going to have to radically change. And I think that small teams who are fluent with each other and are good at teamwork across each other, and that means creative-led and creative-minded folks who've got creative strategy, a kind of a account type person, someone who can also think about how is this going to be connected to the P&L and also drive the business metrics that we're under tasked to go create. I think those small teams are going to be super organisms. They're going to make and break companies, and I'm very excited where James's head's at too. And I think challenger brands and coming in right now, this is going to be an incredible time. Or a crazy belief I have. Jonathan Anderson's appointment at Dior this week, if you saw that news, where he's taking both couture and ready to wear and across men's and women's under one very tight creative vision. I think we're going to see almost the entire luxury industry shift and be controlled in the next couple years by 10 individuals with a badass credibility team behind them.
Thoughts?
Yeah, I think so. I'll come from an investor lens. So before I started Exceptional, I was at a firm called SoftBank, and I was on a vision fund, and we did some really generational companies like Slack, Uber, NVIDIA, et cetera. And I think every time we viewed a founder and viewed a person who was starting a company, we thought about what is that person's zone of genius, right? So meaning what they're excellent at, what were they a genius at, inefficient, deficient at. And I think as we continue to view entrepreneurs and the people in this world who has to continue to build these enduring businesses, the paranoia and the obsession you need to have and the responsibility that each person has in this room to understand AI capabilities, understand advancement in the world. And it's a positive and optimistic feeling and seat I am in, having so much capital to deploy, but understanding every time I view and talk to an individual from, it could be a 10-year-old to someone who's 60 years old, the responsibility we have to give back.
I love the fact that the very first question, here's a guy who's actually placing chips on bets every single day. How many pitches are you seeing daily?
Yeah, I mean, weekly, we're probably seeing almost 1,200, right?
Wow.
So that's incredible. And it's all very well for someone like me to hypothetically talk about it. 1,200 pitches going across his desk every single day. And the first thing he said in this room is taste. So I think that's amazing. This idea that taste is a currency again, truth is a currency again, what's real, I guarantee you're all as sick as me when you go on LinkedIn and 95% of what you read is, let's be honest, AI created bullshit.
Right.
So you stop reading it. It's like, you never once wrote on here in the last 3 years, but all of a sudden you're writing massive diatribes every morning.
With huge words.
Beautifully illustrative
Utilise,
emojis.
my favourite
Synergies.
hate word, utilise and synergies.
So suddenly the most valuable assets are truth and honesty, or dare I say that marketing word, authenticity. But my God, that's got a new power. And this notion of taste. Yeah. We were riffing before completely separately, but is there a scenario where taste becomes all important? Are we going to imbue taste into our children like never before? That notion of you need to tune into that looks wicked, that runway, or you need to get all over that art history or whatever it might be.
Yeah,
that's cool.
That was it. It was the joke of like the person with the art history major, like they were always the one in business. You were like, oh yeah, that was a wasted degree. But now we're like, oh shit, like you want your kids to have that taste level and have that understanding and really understand where creativity comes from, how it's formed, and also to strengthen that muscle. And so to me, same thing, like the best ideas I've seen inside the brands always come from the ones connected culturally.
Yep.
And so culture credibility is going to beat attention in an era of algorithmic change. That to me is like my big takeaway.
Love that.
Slightly, I remember listening to the CMO of Apple, Tor Myron, I think his name is, saying that the number one thing they look for, you probably work with America, is taste, which I found quite interesting
really?
for a huge tech company. Like they evaluate their work based on taste.
But that's got to be good. Finding those true human sensibilities again and bringing them back in terms of importance. I love that.
Yeah. Okay, next question. We're going to talk about the kind of warmth and familiarity element of AI and agentic AI and chatbots. A recent survey, Zendesk, when they polled business leaders, 2/3 of them apparently think that AI provides that warmth and familiarity. Interesting, I thought, a big number. So what if the efficiency argument is overrated and it's actually warmth and familiarity we need? But also, what's the dark side of that argument? I don't know who wants to take that first.
I'll take the first step.
Yeah.
I think you have to, so I use multiple models per day for different reasons, right? So if we're trying to identify a technical stack and we want to play with the code, we actually use Claude, versus if I'm trying to understand different prompts, I use OpenAI and ChatGPT. And I think you want to be able to use them as a caddy versus using it as a dependent, right?
Yeah.
Because once you become so dependent on this functionality in your life, you start to churn your learning capabilities. And with our team, when we're evaluating founders, we can tell quickly who's actual has the technical acumen to build an enduring business or who actually is just vibe coding, right? And what we want to do is to say, okay, how can you amplify your day-to-day work life with the different applications and different technology advancements versus becoming dependent if we took that out of your day-to-day and now you can't, survive building an enduring business.
Okay.
I also think like you're the product right now. Like OpenAI is building the operating system where our collective consciousness is the roadmap. And so that sounds kind of like, some days I'm like, oh God. Other days I'm like, yeah, this is gonna be like, I'm a bit tech optimist. But I do think right now they're training the public to be comfortable with machines being a new member of society. And that's something we just need to know is gonna happen in this next age of like, I think what some academia are calling 5.0. Where like the acceleration of what's happening in digital, we're gonna also be the product at the end of the day. And so they're giving it a warm, fuzzy voice that makes our words sound better. And I don't know about you, but when I get outputs from whether it's Claude or whether it's ChatGPT, I mean, I love Opus 4 right now. If you're not using it, like give it a try. But I edit a lot because I feel like it's very like elaborating and it's becoming verbose and it's trying to add like words that create like a tone of voice that's very friendly and familiar. And so I think that's the technology companies making us as a group comfortable, and it needs to be warm and fuzzy to drive adoption. So just don't forget, like, what is the agenda setting happening behind the scenes as you're using these products, and like, don't forget you are the product at the end of the day. And so I think like be very thoughtful, try to also understand, like I get kind of freaked out when I don't remember how long ago this was. Remember when like people would get on a plane, they'd put out a tweet and then they'd land and they were fired from their job because Twitter like raged against them?
Yeah.
I'm a little bit cautious of like stories of people using AI and maybe downloading packages or downloading code on GitHub and then all of a sudden like crashing the servers at their corporate headquarters because they didn't have safety nets and they didn't like have de-risking solutions in place. I just think there's that's the thing that as an operator of a company, like you also want to make sure that we're not just using these tools that also you're not having risk conversations that well, and you're not thinking about how to de-risk your workforce and your teams that are using this.
So on that basis, are we going to see more get warmer and fuzzier still, or will it be more like what Musk was doing with Grok, that's supposedly a bit of an antithetical character?
Like, look, here's the best reinvention I've seen recently is Zuck. Like, talk about a person going through a reinvention, like Mark Zuckerberg. I think the same thing's going to happen depending on what's happening in the cultural climate, what's happening with regulations and policy. And I think where you're going to see the algorithms or the tone of voice or the way that the go-to-market changes at these big companies in order to drive the type of adoption and the policies that they want to see.
Interesting. So the reinvention of Zuck as in...
Like as a person who's more friendly and now he's into fashion.
Creating a human version
and he's kind of like, I mean,
Yeah.
he's kind of cool.
Well, you have to stay in business. Wall Street is also demanding the entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
Right? Like you can't... the most successful large cap businesses, they make a ton of profit and the EBITDA is always positive, but they reinvent in the product and also the founder themselves. He's also one of the few people who started this business who's still running the business versus Microsoft, et cetera, right? So I think he had no choice, and that's the paranoia that you should have as an individual and a founder. How can I stay in business? How can I improve?
But would you put money now into a Zuck that's Thai boxing and the multi-dimensional, multifaceted version? Like you used to be an athlete, right?
Yep, I play American football, not real football, so I forgot where we're at right
Just
now.
watch it, you're in London. But would you put more money into those who are exhibiting multifaceted kind of?
It's an interesting question. I would first unpeel the onion to see how he's hiring, the talent acquisition, who wants to come work at Meta versus who wants to come work at OpenAI versus Microsoft. And then from there, seeing the actual, like, is that founder getting people wanting to work with them? So to take a step back, at a macro level, exceptional, we track communities. At a micro level, we track individuals. So the top 50 private companies internally, Monzo, Chime, et cetera, we're internally looking at the top 7 to 10 employees, and we're seeing where they jump next to give them capital, credibility, and confidence.
Wow.
So as we're looking at these founders,
Forensic.
we want to see, okay, who wants to work for that person?
Yeah, right.
Right?
Well, let me play a spin on that. The way fashion also starts to build trends. Like, it's not an accident when we make a shoe the shoe of the year. It's not an accident. It is a incubation plan behind the scenes. And so we look at the people that are the megaphones, and then we look at who are they following, who's influencing their taste. And so we're also strategically placing bets, just like you're doing it with, chips on the table, as you so to speak. We're doing it also to drive preference and style credibility.
Yeah.
So that's happening. And you have to do it all. You have to be the triple threat. Like, you have to be both a great operator, you have to use the tools, so get on the path and understand how to use them, and because they're going to provide expertise where you might have blind spots, and they're going to supercharge the areas where you're great and where you can excel, and build your small team. But like, credibility matters.
Which is an interesting, leads us on to our next sort of track, if you like, around power and control. So where we are currently in this world of moving rapidly, like doubling capacity within 7 months, I believe, AI is, so think about where we'll be in 10, 15 years. It's kind of inconceivable in many respects. But in the current ecosystem, who do you think still holds the power? Is it the coder? Is it the consumer? Is it the creatives? And how do we shift that power, maybe, is a better question.
I mean, right this second, it's definitely not the creatives, right this second.
Right.
We absolutely need to, everyone here attending a conference like this, doing from the industries that you're from, we all need to be doing what we can to make sure we amplify and shine a light on and give as much opportunity for those creative minds to be creative minds again. Because right now, I've got a 16-year-old boy doing his GCSEs, and the power that he can wield over ChatGPT being better than any online learning resource ever, and me explaining to him that the better the prompt, the better the output, and so on. So all these little young brains realizing that, but also absolutely at the same time knowing every single thing that they are learning in a classic didactic fashion is obsolete and irrelevant.
Totally.
Which is a weird place for kids to be in. So where does that live? That we know, therefore, where this center of gravity is at the moment in terms of power. What's incredibly important, why I think conversations like this are important, and tracks like this, and is that this begins to shift, and bright people in wicked businesses or putting money into the right places start seeing, where are we going to fuel that creativity again? How are we going to show the importance of human creativity? How are we going to show that weird and niche and different is a really good thing to keep it moving on? Because without that, it will be problematic.
Yep.
Yeah. Any thoughts to add to that? Who holds that power? How can we shift it?
I mean, it's a capital race right now. I mean, I thought of, look, I also went through the Web3 era where we had this amazing technology that we thought was going to enable, everybody to succeed. It was supposed to also help remuneration models for people, and proof of work was going to get remunerated for people actually doing the work, but it was a technology solution looking for a problem, and it never really found its way. And I think we talked about case studies forever and never really implemented the right stuff. I think in AI, it's working, and it's working fast. I think there are going to be small teams who really spend time debating real-world problems we want to solve. And right now, I think the industry is a bit distracted by like wrappers and agentic and running for speed, and we're building massive infrastructure instead of like creating more efficiencies. And so I believe that there is going to be a pivot where it also feels a bit of like 2017 vibes, where like Uber was the one that was in the news all the time because they were scaling at this rate and fundraising faster than Google even raised money. So I get a bit of those vibes where ChatGPT is just like constantly in the headlines. At the same time, I think real-world companies that live in the here and now need to get much more tangible and connected with their communities and the stakeholders that they serve. I think policymakers and regulation is also going to have a sweeping influence as well. And so it's not just enough to find your cash flow positive and move from revenue to profitability. I think you also have to solve real-world problems. And that's going to be another big piece that matters. Like in fashion, you can't just make stuff and then hope you're going to sell it down the line and burn the stuff you don't to maintain your kind of luxury status. You're going to have to get very thoughtful because digital wallets are being implemented now, and you can only make what you can sell. So I think power is going to be decentralized by some of these conglomerates with the radical infrastructure, which is too expensive for everybody to go and replicate. But I do believe solving problems and partnering with those with infrastructure is going to look like a model that we'll see going forward.
Marell, what about you? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's funny when you mentioned policymakers a few times. It made me think about the geolocation advancements. So the reality is the policymakers have the power.
Yeah.
And then from there, the consumers can only do as much as whatever. Obviously the United States is much more flexible than the UK versus much more flexible than Europe. And then this kind of war against, or friendly war against the US and China, who gets the AGI first, right? So I think
it's a race.
I think it's a race, right? And I think, the policymakers need to really understand what's best for that actual region, right? And in a long-term fashion, and make a 10 to 20 to 50-year bet versus so monetary, right? So.
Yeah. Okay. And then moving on to this, because I'm sure there are a lot of creative people sat in this room now, people creating brand guidelines, all that sort of thing. And if 72% of business leaders expect brands or AI to be their brand voice, then whose voice does it become? I mean, this is an existential question.
I hate that.
I thought you might.
It's absurd. The fact that 72% have said, oh yeah, we expect that, it's like, Christ, I just think you need to have a better grip on what your brand is then.
Right.
But this whole thing around authenticity.
Yes, and.
Yes, yeah.
I think it's an astonishing statistic, and it's
Do you?
like basically saying, oh yeah, we'll give up.
It's lazy, right?
Well, the one guarantee we've got, irrespective of AI in the next 2 years, is it's going to be pretty tumultuous. It's going to be no one knows anything.
Yep.
It's insanely uncertain.
Early
Anyone who says they got the answers are complete liars. So you speak to anyone who's actually worth their salts and know what's going on, they go, the one certainty is uncertainty. So even if you just take one tiny part, like trade tariffs from Trump a few weeks back, the one thing you have to do to ride that out is have a strength of brand, a brand that can live and cut through, be an editor of choice, and people can point to and latch onto and align to. Maybe it's got purpose underpinning or whatever it might be. But to just go, we'll let ChatGPT work out the brand voice, see you later, they're finished.
But it means a lot of people lose their jobs as well, doesn't it? Which is a big topic of the
that's
week.
like the term AI slop, like moving to the middle. And maybe, I don't know,
It's a CEO who won't be a CEO for very long.
yes, and a CEO who's afraid of seeing their name in the headlines and who is afraid of like the Twitter pitchforks coming for them and tagging them on X and being like, oh, we have to now participate. Like, the reality is you do need to have a point of view. You do need to discuss what are your brand values. If you don't have that underpinned, then a lot of this debate and probably like, oh, I'm just going to rely on AI is because you haven't done the work in doing the strategy to answer the questions in the first place that then make you just say, oh, well, I'm going to just go with the generic answer that's coming out of this mishmash that I'm getting off of.
I love that. So that ties into what we were saying earlier. And I wonder then if you're going to continue to seek and find those people who really have a pointed perspective and a point of view beyond just their tech being brilliant or their product really working. I'm wondering if that becomes exponentially important for you.
Taste.
Yeah,
I guess
exactly. I think especially if you have a product and the end user is a consumer, not B2B, but more B2B2C, your consumer should be your brand in a way, right? Consumer analysis, deeply of understanding buying experiences, deeply understanding different tectonic shifts. And I think the moment you lose touch with the consumer and you try to automate your brand, right, and try to proactively, synthetically act like you think what they know already, you start to see your brand shift and dilute.
Yeah.
I could give it like, there's also some examples as a brand person or someone who wants to have like on-brand content that's shipped globally that has trans creation with lower risk. There's like everyone's like desperate to get AI tools who can build those toolkits, can automate the creative process for teams, and can help ship work that's on brand. That's true. However, I think you have to still build with the humans, have the creative direction and the ideas, always be checked by those with credibility that really understand the brand and can help the brand stretch and move and make inflections that help to add value to what you're doing, bring your product to market in the way that is authentic. And at the same time, I think you can like look at your processes and automate with intention.
It's not a coincidence that OpenAI just brought Johnny Ive company, who's was the VP, I think, engineer of Apple, right? And he was excluding obviously Steve Jobs and a few other people. He was the closest to the consumer feel, right?
Yeah.
And it's because he understood that what the consumer needed. And I think that's what OpenAI is trying to take a step in front of the competition and say, okay, how can we almost acquire someone who has this obsession with the consumer to be able to create a product that we can proactively hope that they feel.
And likewise, I don't think it's coincidental that was predicated on tactile, physical, gorgeous, sexy products, things you wanted to touch and be a part of. Like, there is this mad, you started off with paradoxes, which I love, but you almost got these two tiers of this insane level of advancement where we are only able to continually look forward and can barely catch up. But at the same time, cassette sales are up 20%. People in the audience, I've seen a couple of people from record labels, vinyl is through the roof year on year. People need to feel again. Magazines are getting relaunched all the time. They are not for the P&L when it comes to things like magazines and the bottom line. That's because people want to feel again. They want to be a part of something. It creates a new ecosystem. They can wear the merch, go to the festival, buy the vinyl, have the thing. We are desperate for those real-world immersive experiences and being a part of something. Absolutely, you need to taste. A different version of the taste, you need to touch it and feel it and sense it. So I think those two are going to run in parallel. One will be a continual antidote and push away this growth and acceleration going on the screen.
I think we've broken the system.
We're probably like at 3 to 4 minutes.
Yeah.
We need a time check.
We need a we've got 35 minutes again.
Probably 3 to 4 minutes.
Go again.
Start again. Woo!
Probably 3 to 4 minutes.
We'll just keep going. No. Are we investing as much as we should be in human creativity versus computational power? Erika.
I'm getting really nervous about this.
5 minutes.
Especially when, like, I think it was the CEO of Anthropic is saying that, like, entry-level jobs are going to be, like, basically half wiped out. And I'm like, where is the knowledge transfer going to happen?
Yeah.
And that is also, like, I think scares me, but is the opportunity. There's now, my father, he's a professor, and my father, I got him onto ChatGPT, and he's been using it now to help accelerate his writing. He's the most well-read individual on organizational leadership. But now he's finally putting pen to paper because it's helping him come over like the writer's block. And I think that is incredible because his knowledge and his experience and his understanding and real-world case studies of what he's seen in the business world getting passed down is something I want to make sure I don't lose. But I think this younger generation also needs to go through the rigor and the experience of bringing products to market, of doing design-based work, of understanding what's the path to a go-to-market. And I don't just mean marketing, go-to-market holistically. I think brand people, account people are very well suited because they've seen how this works inside either organizations or agencies across different industries and sectors. And I think that knowledge, we still need to learn the processes and the steps, and you still need to go through them, but what you can do is just consolidate them. And what I'm believing is now happening is the path from concept to consumer is a lot faster, but it is still shit in, shit out. So you have to be very thoughtful because, again, the machines are just going to tell you kind of what you want to hear in this elaboration because that's where they are today.
Okay. I'm going to move us on because we've only got 3 minutes left. So we're just going to play a little game to finish off. Of snog, marry, avoid. I was going to say a ruder word, but I got scared about saying it. A game of snog, marry, avoid. In this space, there's this wonderful AI, agentic AI adoption space. What's the one thing you would want to part ways with, the one thing you want to keep close, the one thing you just want a bit of a pash with? Who wants to start? Marell, James.
Christ.
Go on, James.
Such a weird question, isn't it?
I know.
You can say the word you want to say.
No. I'd like. I think something I was riffing earlier. We're gonna want to marry real truth, like everything that is real will become this most insanely valuable thing, which sounds so weird, me even saying it. But you will always be doing it now. You will all be seeking out real in the things that you read and what you watch, and it will become arguably increasingly difficult, but perhaps increasingly rewarding too. So I would like to marry that. Do I also say snogging and killing, or can we move on?
Are we just going to marry first?
Do what you want.
Whatever you want.
Choose what you want.
I think I would marry, and I think I encourage the audience to marry prompting, right? It's so important to understand the input and output of when I type into ChatGPT and you type into ChatGPT, and also teaching your kids and teaching your community and teaching your family how to prompt correctly is probably the most valuable thing for us to advance right now.
I'm going to start with date. I think try the LLMs. Right. They're all competing with each other. Date, hook up with, whatever. Don't get too committed to one because like a month and a half ago, I was like, Gemini is on fire. And now I'm like, nope. Like I'm Claude Code all day. I'm on Opus right now, and I'm very excited for what they've just developed. So try them all out and build a fluency. They're all going to have their own different kind of spin, and also eventually they're going to be writing a lot of checks to acquire proprietary data and build their own bespoke models. So like they're going to pick their own lane. So try them all. So hook up with everybody.
Good advice.
Yeah. And
avoid?
I think I would avoid like engineers and people who are trying to build applications quickly. Lovable and bold are great, right? I know we're kind of close to Europe, but vibe coding, right? Because you can vibe code so much that you become lazy in understanding how to build a real enduring technical business with true security capability. So like just try to advance a little bit more in the technical stack.
Yeah, I think avoiding that, I guess I'm combining two answers. Avoiding that first answer being the one, because it definitely isn't. I mean, I love the way Erika's basically playing LLMs off one another. They wrote this, but can you do better? That's kind of cool and cute, and I like that. But likewise, it's one big grandiose approximation tool for all of the chat that we've ever had. So you've got to keep pushing it and nudging it a bit further and asking it more. And if you're going to be doing stuff and you're going to be leveraging that and using that as part of your output, you need to find what's new and original within there. So if you just settle, you're done for.
Avoid? Did you
Avoid.
do avoid?
So,
We haven't got time for Mary. You can ask them afterwards.
I think avoiding real people is a weird one. Like, the discourse and debate that is required to make briefs great, which then make great prompts, which then make better outputs, you can't replace that. And I think we've seen some brands do this stuff where they think the AI announcement is the announcement, and that only freaks out their vendors and their suppliers and their employees. Like, so avoid making that the message. And then the last one I would avoid, well, we're out of time.
I
We're out of time.
I think what I would avoid falling in love with one thing, continue to learn, right?
yeah.
Stay
So
curious.
don't marry anyone.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
you
the
said.
goal,
There you go.
the goal should be to be on the path. But when I
Thank you,
mean on it, like, be on it. Like,
Yeah.
you should be checking out GitHub. Get a mentor who's younger than you or sideways, and start playing with Cursor.
Yeah.
Get into GitHub.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
Well,
you,
on
guys.
that note, thank you so much, everyone.